Yeah.
Are you sure?
Oh, I guess we're ready.
Right then.
I guess you made the decision to push the button and I was still in like mode.
I love how you started that because that's what we're getting into right now is decisions. Have you ever found it really hard to make a decision or find yourself in analysis paralysis or
The disease of long thinking, aka overthinking.
or wanting to pass it off to someone else and throwing the hands up like, I don't think I can make that decision. What's that like for you?
I do not love those places. Like, I have had lots of moments of indecision and in feeling very indecisive. And it comes at different points in my life, but that lack of trust in myself to know that I know what's right for me. I know when I'm in those moments, and usually they're like bigger life moments, but sometimes it's the little ones too. Let's be real. And I feel like I want to fall back into old patterning of like, I've got to ask everyone else. I've got to ask this person's opinion, and I might need to ask that person's opinion. And I can't make a decision without knowing what my mom thinks or what so-and-so thinks. And the reality is that just keeps me more in the pattern. And this feeling of being small and like I don't know enough, or maybe that I'm not enough, that I'm not smart enough. It really taps into those really crappy, like deep-seated beliefs that I've carried for a long time that have been moving through and releasing and changing into other things. But the reality is like indecision comes in lots of places. And for myself, it goes back to like my worth and my value. Like if I make the wrong decision, then there's going to be judgment, a lot of judgment on myself. And just like, how am I going to move forward? Like, what am I?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of feeling of making the wrong decision, what those consequences could be.
Well, and okay, so I wasn't going to go here, but let's go here. We're taught this, like in a lot of places, especially inside of some of our religious institutions or religious cultures, is there are very serious consequences for wrong decisions. In some places it could be your eternal existence is on the line, or who you are as a soul can be on the line. And so it does make it more challenging, I feel like, at least in my own experience and talking to those people who I've coached and just people who are inside our circles and listening to their stories of like, whoa, when I felt like my worth and my value was tied to my decision, or my eternal worth and value were tied to my decision, that was even harder. Versus I'm here on this planet and I'm having an experience and I'm wanting to create this outcome, and I'm going to make this decision and I'm going to go forward and see if it works. I'm going to try on that decision. It's like clothes. Like we go in and we try things on and we go, oh, well, that looks not so good. Or, oh, I like how that one looks. And decisions are a lot the same thing in my book is we're just trying things on. We're experimenting. We don't know. We're not meant to know. I do feel like, though, like a lot of us are taught that we should know. We should have exact clarity. We should have exact like plan and precision in moving forward, instead of the actual truth of trusting yourself and to take a step and see what happens, and take another step and see what happens. One of my favorite quotes, it brings me to that, is by Buckminster Fuller. And he said, God didn't give us a right foot and a wrong foot. He gave us a right correction and a left correction, and a right correction and a left correction. And when I really started to internalize that decision, or that thinking in my decision making, like almost everything shifted for me. Now, I'm still human. I still question, because it does take an audacity, a rebelliousness to really trust yourself in making all the decisions. But the more we do it, the more that trust grows and strengthens and solidifies, and like, well, dang, I can do this. And if something's a wrong decision, I don't believe in right and wrong. You just make another correction. You make another correction moving forward. it means nothing about you.
There's that concept again.
How about you? Tell us about decision making in your world.
I think mine was around authority. Not feeling I had enough experience or I had the authority to make decisions that way. I think it put a lot of weight in what would happen with some of those decisions. I had a really limited range of looking into the future or maybe projecting too much into the future. And even the smallest things of like deciding what to eat some days.
Right.
I actually have that a lot in, I avoid Netflix a lot of times because it takes me 5 million years to pick something.
To just choose a movie.
Oh my gosh, it is painful. So I just don't do it very often. So I think for me it was, you talked about that in religious settings, but I think for me it was more connection. If I make the wrong decision, it's going to cost me connection and create a space of loneliness. And it can feel like it costs a lot. But I think
Absolutely.
one of the biggest things I've learned is you have to make decisions for yourself because you have to live with yourself. And I think that's where I've gained a lot of just agency over my decisions, is because no one knows my life and lives it the way that I do, and no one's paying my bills. No one can tell me what to do that way, and I get to live with whatever that is. And I totally agree with you. There's no right or wrong. It's just it's going to give you one set of experiences that have negative and positives, and and the other way is going to have negatives and positives too. It's really all a thing of perspective.
Well, and I think you bring up a really great point with the Netflix, because here's one of the realities of being human is we all want freedom. We all want freedom, and yet we don't really know what freedom is or how to handle it once we have it. And so with Netflix, you have all the choices. There's a bajillion choices that you can click through, and you can click through and 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 click through, and still not be able, like, you just can't decide. I don't know what I want. So there's this beautiful tool of narrowing it down. When I first had my kids, I put myself in a parenting class because I felt like I didn't have really great tools as far as parenting goes. And I wanted to do some things differently. And so I chose to follow and learn the Love and Logic plan, way of parenting. And I loved it because it was all about choice. It was all about decision making and helping your kids from the time they were tiny, 1, to trust themselves, and 2, to make decisions. But what they did is they said, as the parent, you let them make the decision, but you give them 3 decisions that they can choose from. One that you're okay with, another one that you're okay with, and one that's just totally audacious and out there that they're never going to choose because it's silly. But it gives them this opportunity to practice autonomy, to practice trust in themselves, and you to go, okay, cool, great decision. Great decision. Let's see what happens moving forward. And as they get older, then the decisions, we broaden out the spectrum or the track in which they can practice the decision making safely while still making mistakes, and knowing that it's okay to make those mistakes, that that's just part of the human experience, and that it means nothing about them other than it's time for a different choice, and that maybe choice A wasn't the choice that was, going to bring the outcome that choice B is going to bring, and calling the fire department every time something happens, like, the silly one. So I think, remember for yourself we want all the choices, but to narrow it down for yourself and be like, what are the most pressing and most important things in this decision-making process right here, right now?
Yeah.
And give yourself 3 choices. 2 that you can be totally happy with, and 1 that's just completely silly because why not?
Well, and give yourself a time limit. Like, I think of places going out for dinner, or I need to practice this in Netflix, is like, just pick something and you have 2 minutes or a minute and you have to decide on something, and you have to live with that decision. I think that's a big part of just owning whatever decision, and just going with it and not having judgment around it. Just what can I get out of it, not what I lost by choosing this.
Right. And here's the cool thing about Netflix. If you just choose it, you take the remote and you go, oh, bad. This was not a great choice. Click.
Yeah.
And you choose something else, or you just choose to do something different altogether.
Yeah. But I think this is another place of listening to your intuition. Like, really take a moment, get quiet, get in your body, get quiet.
Body, get quiet.
Yeah. And ask yourself quietly, your body will tell you one way or another which decision you're leaning towards anyways, and what feels right. And often it's not what you think it's going to be.
And going back to the tool of Ka, celebrate the fact that you made a decision. Even if you don't know the outcome, celebrate the fact that you made a decision moving forward.
Because I think the reality is, and what I've always taught my kids is, if you don't make the decisions, someone is more than happy to make them for you.
Absolutely.
And then you find yourself in a place where you've lost control of your life.
Which is maybe what has already brought you to where we're all at together right now. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, decision making. What does it look like for you? Where have you struggled? We would love to hear about it. But then what are some big decisions pending for you, and how are you going to use the tool of narrowing it down? Knowing that it's the tool of knowing it's just a choice, and that you can always make another choice, and that it means nothing about you.
Yeah. I love it. All right, here's to the next one.